I mean, where do you even start after a game like that? Like, I could probably sit here and chat for another 90 minutes because every single minute of that game is probably worth talking about. But ultimately, the only thing that you can say is we're out. We are out. There is no way we're not out. Like, in order for us to get through from this group now, it's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but this is what has to happen. Later on this evening, Bayern Munich have to beat Copenhagen. And on match day 6, we have to beat Bayern Munich and Galatasaray and Copenhagen have to draw. I don't see that combination of events happening. I really don't. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Bayern Munich let Copenhagen win, just to make sure that that's how the group ends up tonight. But there's no other way of looking at it. It's out of our hands. We have to rely on snookers, and it's just not going to happen. But we've only got ourselves to blame this time. Like, we can talk about refereeing decisions in earlier matches, but ultimately tonight, and over the course of this Champions League group stage, we can only really look at ourselves. And tonight especially, it boils down to 3 things. Andre Onana, Bruno Fernandes, and the substitutions. Those are the reasons we have lost the opportunity to win tonight's game. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to start going crazy on Bruno Fernandes because I thought Bruno Fernandes offensively had a fantastic game. But I think we have to start with Onana because he's the one that's going to get the most flack from this game because, again, ultimately, over the course of this Champions League group stage, Andre Onana has cost us our place in the Champions League knockout stage. And it is a shame to say that because, especially in the last few weeks, certainly in the Premier League, he's been absolutely fantastic. 3 consecutive clean sheets in the Premier League. But it seems that the going's got tough tonight, as it has on several occasions in this Champions League group, and Onana has crumbled, which, to my understanding, is not like him. I know he's had a mistake in him in the past, but the reason why he was nominated and almost won the top goalkeeper at the Ballon d'Or Awards is because, for all intents and purposes, he carried Inter Milan to that Champions League final last year. And over the last few months, he's carried Manchester United out of the Champions League this year. You just cannot afford to concede those 2 goals from those free kicks. The first one, he's in a good position. We always used to talk about with De Gea and Van der Sar how they would stand too close to their far post. Onana starts relatively central to the goal. All he has to do is just stay there. I just don't understand why he needs to move. Yes, he knows Hakim Ziyech. He knows him from his time at Ajax. He knows what he's capable of. But back yourself, man. Stand up for yourself. Put yourself in a good position and hold your ground. If he gets it up and over that 6'4" wall, fair play to Hakim Ziyech, but don't make it easy for him. Especially when you know you've got those 2 players in front of you that are going to move out to the way to create the space for that shot. Could someone have stood in that gap behind those 2 players? Who knows? But Onana should be doing better. The second one is even worse because there's nothing around him. Yes, Martial gets across a little bit, but Martial doesn't touch it. And what is this? I used to moan about De Gea for certain types of saves he try and make, but you can't go on the floor and try and punch it off the floor. Like, what sort of goalkeeping technique is that? Who's taught him to do that? Oh, and then I think the third goal is a really, really, really good goal, but you can make the argument that a goalkeeper should never be beaten at his near post. You can, but I really think it's a phenomenal ball from Ziyech. It's well picked up by Atrioglu, and it's a phenomenal strike, whipping around Onana into that near post corner. So I don't want to have a go at him for the third goal, but you definitely can have a go at him if you want, and you definitely can have a go at him for the first 2. What disappoints me is that I actually think this was a really good performance from Manchester United. I really do. I think individually, again, certainly offensively, it was a fantastic performance. Some of the build-up plays, some of the best we've seen all season. You look at those first 2 goals, everyone was going on about Garnacho's goal against Everton. For me, Garnacho's goal tonight was better than Garnacho's goal against Everton because the whole team was involved. We were moving it around. We won it well at the back. We feed it into McTominay. McTominay runs 40 yards down the field, brings it back to Anthony. Anthony jinks inside 2 players, feeds the ball into Bruno Fernandes. He feeds it into Højlund. Lovely hold-up play. Back to Fernandes, draws the man in, feeds Garnacho, roof of the net goal. I could watch that goal over and over and over again. For me, that was the best goal of the night because of just how well it was built up. We then go again. We soak up a bit of pressure, hit them on the break. Again, the interplay. Fernandes and Shaw spin it round the corner. Bruno picks it up. Bang! 2-0 Manchester United. All, masterminded it by Bruno Fernandes, the key man, heavily involved in both goals and obviously scoring the second. But that's the good side of Bruno Fernandes, and now we'll get on to the moaning about Bruno Fernandes, because it was the bad side that Bruno Fernandes that leads to the Onana errors. His petulance, again, his frustration, his lack of composure when it matters, that Scott McTominay plays a bad pass. And because Scott McTominay plays a bad pass, Bruno Fernandes' head goes crazy. He chases Lucas Torreira 70 yards down the pitch and just wipes him out from behind. You can't do that at this level. I understand tracking back Torreira, but to then catch him up, let him go again, and then take him out, you cannot do that at this level. And yes, we've spoken about the free kick. Onana should do better, but Bruno Fernandes cannot do that. The second one for me is arguably even worse, because Ziyech is going absolutely nowhere, but he's done a little skill on Bruno, and his ego can't take it. So when he misses with the first challenge, he sticks a petulant. Again, I always want to use petulant with Bruno Fernandes. He sticks a petulant left leg out, kicks Ziyech on the back of his calf because he's annoyed that Ziyech skilled him up, and gives away another free kick that again should have been dealt with but hadn't. But if Bruno Fernandes is able to keep his head in those situations, the free kick doesn't even come about in the first place. Into the second half, I think I've skipped over the third goal because the third goal was absolutely brilliant as well. Again, the work between Wan-Bissaka and McTominay and Anthony down the right-hand side. Brilliant flowing move from Manchester United. Deserving of a win when you're scoring goals like this with that sort of level of build-up play in the midfield to make it 3-1 in the first place before it's then pulled back to 3-2. And after it becomes 3-2, then I turn to Erik ten Hag. Because the substitutions he made today cost us the third goal and were the reason why we didn't end up scoring more, in my opinion. Firstly, the decision to put Kobbie Mainoo on, who I was surprised he didn't start the game. Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have seen Kobbie Mainoo start the game after the performance he put in against Everton. However, Amrabat was doing the job that we needed him to do in that midfield. And as good as Kobbie Mainoo is on the ball, he's probably much better than Sofyan Amrabat on the ball. Amrabat's work and experience at tracking runs and holding the play up in those areas of the pitch is leaps and bounds ahead of Kobbie Mainoo's right now. Don't forget, last year in the under-18s, Kobbie Mainoo was playing centre mid and attacking midfield, not holding midfield. And unfortunately for Mainoo, he is the man who lets Atrioglu get in behind him. Amrabat wasn't allowing that to happen with Mertens in the first half. I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened with Atrioglu and Amrabat, but I'm just saying it would have been less likely for it to happen. And we spoke about it against Everton. A lot of Everton's chances came because Kobbie Mainoo wasn't at the level to track those runners from midfield again, as we spoke about when McTominay wasn't available. Not McTominay, when Casemiro's not available. He needs that extra bit of support in midfield, and that decision to isolate Mainoo in the second half of that second half is where Galatasaray's chances started to come. Secondly, Martial up front. I know Højlund was just back from injury. I know he needs to recover because we've got a huge game against Newcastle at the weekend. But his hold-up play, his effort to close down the opposing centre-backs, the moment Martial came on, that was gone. And we surrendered our control on the football match when we did that. I like Martial, I do. But his lack of effort and his lack of running is not acceptable at this level of Champions League football. This is not Goodison Park. This is not James Tarkowski and Ethan Branthwaite, who every time they get the ball are going to hoof the ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. These are two centre-backs at Champions League level that are getting on the ball, passing it around between themselves and playing the ball into midfield. Højlund was stopping that from happening. Martial was allowing that to happen, which allowed the control of the game to shift back to Galatasaray. Then he takes off Wan-Bissaka for Dalot, which offensively made sense, but immediately allowed Wilfried Zaha 3 attempts on goal when he hadn't had a single attempt on goal in the first half. So that, for me, was a mistake. And then to take Garnacho off and put Pellistri on. I love Pellistri. And if you wanted to put Pellistri on, then I don't know who else he could have taken off. Maybe he should just put Pellistri on instead of Højlund and had Garnacho run around up front with Pellistri on that side. He couldn't take Antony off because, in my opinion, Antony was our best player tonight. I thought Antony was absolutely brilliant. One of the best performances he's put in a Manchester United shirt. And he did not deserve to be on the losing side tonight. But to take Garnacho off, who was our biggest threat, had got their right back booked already, and put Pellistri on a side that he doesn't usually play. Pellistri normally plays on the right-hand side. For me, that was a mistake as well. And I just think a combination of all of those things has cost us 3 points tonight. Yes, there were other chances. Pellistri had 2 or 3 chances he probably should have scored. You've got to ask yourself, if Garnacho had those chances, would he have scored them? And the likelihood is he would have scored at least one of them. But Tomine had his chance that was put wide. We had our other balls into the box. The disappointment for me is, like I say, it's not come together again. And it's just too many times this season, in particularly in the Champions League, where we've allowed a poor mentality, poor tactical decisions, and poor goalkeeping, which has ultimately meant that with one game to go, we're all but out. And like I said, if it doesn't go right for us this evening, if Copenhagen win away at Bayern Munich, we're already out. But I would be absolutely stunned if we get through from this position. I really can't see it happening, but fair play to us if we do. But to be honest, we deserve to drop into the Europa League. We deserve to not even qualify for the Europa League based on our performances so far in this competition. We have got a huge game in the Premier League now, away at Newcastle at the weekend. As things stand right now, I don't give us much chance in that game. Newcastle looked back at it at the weekend against Chelsea. They were robbed of 3 points against Paris Saint-Germain in Paris last night. So off the back of this performance, to travel to St James's Park under the lights, 7 p.m. or 7:30 kickoff, whenever it is, I do fear for us, and I think we could be in for quite a hiding at the weekend. But we'll see. As always, I'm going to back the boys. I thought it was a genuinely good performance from 9 or 10 individuals tonight. But sadly, in those key moments, Bruno Fernandes, Andre Onana, Erik ten Hag, they've just not quite got it right when it's mattered. And that's where we are. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments on what has been an incredibly emotional 2.5 hours for me. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow morning for all of my Europa predictions.